Buddy, I wanted to, before I got into the SQLite delete section, where you delete an object from SQLite and delete from the array, and then tie all of that together with the pushing of the web view. I wanted to do a navigational type of tutorial to navigate you around XCode, because I think you've seen me in XCode, you've seen me go from place to place, and I know that a lot of you, it is kind of tricky. I have some friends out there in China, in Taiwan, who are watching, and I know they said it would be okay, they could follow, but I kind of want to, and you as well, everybody out there, to get an idea of what this navigational area looks like. You've seen me over here. Here are where the folders are for your application. Frameworks is in one folder. You don't generally touch that, but you saw us when we added SQLite to it. It appeared in the frameworks. Actually, let's just go and open the web table view app that we were working on, just to reinforce that. In the frameworks, it actually appears here. It's part of our framework here, but you could drag this right to here, which is where any library should really reside. Although it's in the supporting files, it should be in the libraries. So that's the frameworks, and then you have this products area where you have certain builds that you will find in here. And of course, here is your classes and your views and your supporting files. These are the objects you can select. Now, you can double click one and open it up in its own separate window if you want. I find it to be a little bit awkward, but we'll do it again. You can do it there. I prefer to single click. See how it changes here, over here? And if you single click here, it changes here, and you can go to each one. I call this the folders area, and this the editor area. And if you look over here, we have editor, view, and organizer. In the editor area, you notice you have this button which shows a standard editor. If I select another button here, I have another editor which pops up. What this does here, notice we're seeing both the H and M files. In the standard editor, we only see the one we select, but here we see both. If I choose my root view H, I get my root view M. This second editor allows me to see both my declaration and my implementation files. We'll do it again. Watch it again. I have my add qual picker H, and if I come up here, you'll notice it has to be the M. So that's what this is. Coming back here, it's only what I select. There's a third one here, and you have no editor here. I'm not exactly sure of how this one operates. I don't use this one too often. You'll notice here, you'll see it. If you highlight things here, it'll take it back out, right? And then you have a comment. This is, I believe, for comments here, if you wanted to add comments to your document or notes. No, this one here gives you both, again, your declaration and your implementation, depending upon which one you're on. If I'm on the if I'm selecting the implementation, the .m, it'll give me the .h. If I'm in the .h, it'll give me the .m. Okay? Your view here, I'm just going to go back to the standard editor, what we've been looking at. A lot of room to work. In the view section, you notice the view here. If I unselect it, I am now taking out my area from my folders. If I select here, I am now picking up the view here. This is what we call the output area or local information area. When you run the app, all output is displayed here. If I unselect this, I could select here, and now we have the inspector that we now have our object library right here, and we have all kinds of things here that we could use. In the object library, you see that highlighted here. If I hit here, I'm in the media library, right? Object library. And of course here the code snippet library. And these will have all kinds of little pieces of code for you to fetch if you want to work with that. Let's see what happens if we and here's the code snippets. You see here, core data property, right? It tells you what it is. And do one here. It gives you actually snippets of code. You can take that code and you can copy it, I believe, and put it into your application. Do while statement, for example. Alright, it'll give you all platforms this works for, by the way. And now you've seen me type this in here with IntelliSense to get code, but you could pull it out of this code snippet library. And then over here we have a file template library, and this is what you've seen here with different types of the header file and different types of core data models and so on. You will mostly use the object library, mostly. Up here you will show the inspector, file inspector, and over here the quick help. When you have an item, I just want to bring back in our view, when you have an item here, let's actually go to the root view. And when you have an item here selected, you have now in the nib, you have now some different kinds of inspectors here. You have the file inspector, you have the quick help again, and then next switch we have an identity inspector for the object in question, and you then have here attributes inspector, and we've seen these before where you change things. And then here is a table view size where you can place things in the view, and of course here we have our outlets. Okay, these things don't appear, as you can see, when you're in a class. They appear when you're in a nib. Alright, we're just going to pull these things off of here, and the last piece you see here is something called the Organiser. The Organiser basically is help that you can get, repositories, right, of information. It tells you where all of, like, right, this is your picker view, this is a Hello Universe, this is some of the apps that are there, projects that you have. Hang on, there we go. There's a whole bunch of projects that have been worked on by myself, where they're located, what's going on with them. These look like ones that have been deleted or taken away, and if you select them, it'll tell you some things about. Right now the demo's open, right? Last open, the date of that, my table view, and so on and so forth. All of these projects, archives, there are no archives at this time, and documentation. And you can do a search here. Now you notice here, explore the hierarchy, show the documentation matching the content, and show the bookmarks. So I could type in something here like switch. Find documentation containing switch, which is of course a statement. And I get all the information where I can find switch. Reference, for example, and so on. maybe switch is a bad example. Let's try let's try if then, which is a simple one which come up in the documentation. Let's see, sample code, debugging, XCode basics help, right? And so on. Here in the system guides, so if then, that's probably even a bad one. Let's give something with some substance here. Let's see. You could do find documentation starting with class. And there you have. You see anything with class in there. NS object class, script class, Cocoa fundamentals, all these things. Objective-C runtime reference. Let's look at this one. And it'll give you an overview, and you see class is mentioned. You may be looking for something here for some help, a class add method. Let's see if there's one in our code that would be helpful. A better example. Here's one. IB action. Let's look for that one. If you wanted to know, hey, what is IB action? And system guide. Hang on. Let it go through again. Okay, I'm trying to get it in here. There we go. And a sound class, right? And let's see, XCode release notes. Nothing in the reference. Let me type it in caps. Sometimes these things can be finicky. Wait, let me go back. Hang on. Okay, and there's another way of finding help. You can simply select the item here, not popping up there, and go help. Sorry. And search documentation for selected text. And that's not even giving us, typically does. Let me try help again, and quick help for selected item. No quick help on that. Quick help is what pops up in here. You've seen that one before as well. You could hit the documentation API reference if you want as well, but let's try another this one. Cocoa fundamentals, Cocoa program, Cocoa framework, and we should be able to find this UI table view controller. Notice it pops up in the search as well. In any event, you can do this, or if you don't find it here, they may just make mention of UI table view controller. Let's try the other one, which is the quick help. Now here it is, declared in you, yeah. And if you go here, right, it will bring up the same reference guide. You see that book? I'm going to close that for a minute. So if we go into the help, which is quick help for the item, you'll see a little book there, right? Show symbol info in documentation window, and then you have this one here. The book will bring up the same one here for UI table view control. I'm going to try to find one that will help you. Usually they're there, and you'll find something there, like avoid, for example. Let's try that one. No quick help. Let's try the reload data method. Reload data, and there it is right there. See, here's an example of one that is in fact there. Reload data. Class reference, here it is, and there it is. So reloads data from the data associated with an image editing panel. Void reload data, and it gives you a basic overview of it. Here's some class methods as well. So you may get a lot of help from this documentation. This is an edit panel, but it works as well for a table view, as we've seen. So anyway, that's the help. It may not be comprehensive or as great as you wanted. I urge you to get books on XCode to help you with it, and of course my tutorials. But that's where you're going to find the XCode user guide is right there as well under help. There, right there again, which we're here. It's going to give you a basic overall guide of XCode. The editor area, the navigation area, the debugger area, and the utility area. We've just gone through them. I called this the editor area, of course, and of course I called this one the area that allowed you, let me go to that one again, right here, the output area, I called it. But those are the areas we just went over, okay? And utility had the inspector and the library pane and so on and so forth. And your navigational area navigates through XCode. So, in the navigational area, you notice some icons are here. We've been through this before. Here are the folders. This was the hierarchy. Remember we saw the hierarchy? You could go through the hierarchy. In fact, that's what it's called. Show the symbol navigator here is to show the project navigator. Symbol being the hierarchy. Here is a search navigator. If I want to find a particular word or a particular instance within my project, for example, I could go add, right? Item. You're seeing it here, but I want to show you what happens. It'll find every instance of add item in your project. So if I select it here, it'll highlight it here. If I select it here, it'll highlight exactly what we just seen before. So you can use this find area to find all instances of variables or items or objects in your project. I find it very, very useful. Here is any issues will be displayed here, and when we highlight that, it's called the issue navigator. Next to the issue navigator we have a debug navigator. There's no debug session going now. That we could talk about at some other point in time. The breakpoint navigator, if you set breakpoints in it, and I haven't worked with those, you probably won't see them or a need for them. And here the log navigator, the debug log and the build log. We had build succeeded, no issues, right? And of course the debug log. So in the navigator area you see this. In the editor area you see this here. Okay? Notice here we're in debug demo. If I close this, see it? Goes away. If I highlight it again and open it up, we had the debug opened. When you run the program, that will come up as debug. But that's not really, I mean, we can get into that later at some point. Here, for example, notice that the application is the demo application and it is run in the 4.3 simulator. That's typically, if you change it to iPad, you're going to have an issue running it. Unless you have a specific iPad application, typically they run an iPhone. When you go to test this out on a device, when you submit it to Apple, you will go to device and it will ask you for a code to put in for the device in order for you to run it on the device, actually upload it to your device. That's what this area is for here. We've seen the run and stop. I'm going to run it again here. It's going to build and compile and all this stuff and bring us into it here, and then it runs our simulator, right? As we wait for it to come up, and here it comes. Right. Okay. And this is a breakpoint, so we're not going to deal with that activate or deactivate a breakpoint. Here is very interesting here. It's another hierarchy. It tells us we're in a demo. We could easily, in the demo app, in the demo folder, in the classes folder, in the root view controller, implementation file, and in the method called table view did select row. If I highlight the root view controller, I have lots of different, I have a delegate here, I have data, I have all methods here. I can go to one of them. So if you go to the view did load, I can pop right down to it. If I go to the view did unload, I can jump right from method to method. Now you've seen me doing it this way, and you can do it just like this way if you want. So if there's a method you want to go to, you can just jump right to it in this way, right? Here's one here. It may be easier for you to navigate that way. The add dwarf method and our delete dwarf method, right? Provided these methods exist. If they don't exist, you obviously can't jump to them. I'm going to just go to the root view controller H. Same thing here. We're in it here. We could jump from here to here. Notice we could jump right from here to here, and nothing would stop us. So you could either navigate here. If you want to close this, you can navigate this way, and it works just as well. And notice over here, all right, I have a couple of items here. I have the methods that are for delete and add, and then I have the only other thing here, the class, the interface of root view controller. But I could jump from whatever files I want to here. For some reason, I find this one to be convenient because I know where everything is, but you don't have to have that open. And we're going to do it one more time. We're going to go back up to the root view controller M, and oh, I don't know. This is the view life cycle, the table view data source, and its delegate. Notice the way it's broken up. The data source has these methods, the delegate has this methods. Delegate only has did select row at index because it delegates what row is selected at what index path. But its whole data source sets up these methods. Now, the add and delete dwarf methods, technically, these are methods that add or delete an item to the array, as we've seen, but they're really not part of this data source in my view. The data source is information to fill up the table view. Now, the reason why they link them in there is because ultimately they will either delete information or add information to the table. So in a sense they are correct, but they don't appear, as part of the structure of the table view data source initially. These wouldn't have existed. And so and it tells you where you are by what's checked off. So that's another way of navigating. It works out well here. You'll see a plus sign here. The plus sign can open up another instance of the window. If I highlight the open window here, I can close it. Now I'm just going to come over to the add qual picker here and do it again. Now while I'm in this window, if I wanted to, I can bring up the add qual picker M, and I could go between windows from here to here. And I could have whatever windows I want open if I really want. I could, well, let me bring up this one here, leave this one in, and come here and add another window there. So now we have 3 different windows, and you could navigate between those windows. So if I wanted to add one here and then add the add dwarf controller, now I have 4. And I could go on. It gets a little, it'll get a little confusing, but you have to know what which window is open. But I could jump now between windows here, here, and here to navigate if I want for particular classes to be open. So XCode gives you a lot of flexibility between these windows. So this plus sign here opens up a new window, a new tab, creates a new tab, and that actually here you will find here, same thing here, new tab, right? That's the new window will bring up an entirely new window on top of this, right? And we added files to the demo. We've done that before. Not files. Well, we've added, let me just correct that. We went into the file, new, and new file, okay, which would allow us to create a new class. So there's, you can close a window, a tab, you can close this particular file. You can close the project, you can save as. Project settings give you derived data and index comes from this default path here, or you can create a custom path. And then you have places to put your build location. We won't get into that just yet. So you notice that XCode has a great amount of flexibility in what you can and cannot do. This print, by the way, is your typical print screen. You can save that as a PDF if you want. I find this to be very awkward. What I would do if I were printing my document, you know, my first tutorial on converting everything to PDF, I would go with that one. Otherwise, it's save each file, and it's the one weakness of XCode in my opinion. The navigators, the project navigator, let me go back up there, I'm sorry. The view navigators, project navigator, right? And then symbol navigator, right? That's what you see here in the view. They're all here. These 6 that you see here, or these 7, what you get here is over here. All 7, 3, 6, 7 under view, right? The editors, same thing. What we saw here, you're seeing here. Standard, assistant, right? And the other one is called version, which I'm again not so sure of what that does. Utilities, your file inspector, the code snippet library, we saw all of these here, right? If I were to view the media library, I get it over here, and we saw this, right? Because the media library is here. It's under the very last tab here, which is the inspector. I believe it is. Wait, let's see. Clear that one off. Usually hide or show utilities, right? Utilities, and then media. You had the object, you had the snippet, and so on. All things accessible from here are in fact accessible from somewhere else. You can hide a toolbar, and then the assistants here. Here's a thing interesting here. Right now our assistant editors are on the right. We can move them over and put them on the bottom, okay? I should go back to that again. On the bottom, we could put it on this side here. We can put it on this side here, all stacked, or we can bring it back to its original position here. So that's for the assistant, which is the middle tab. Alright. Navigator, reveal symbol in Navigator. revealing symbol navigator, revealing project navigator. You know, jump to selection, jump to definition. You can look at these things. The editor, these kinds of things here I haven't touched on. Right now you're in Objective-C++, which is highlighted right here. I wouldn't kind of mess with too much stuff here. I would just leave it. You can run your product from here using Command R or using the run key here. Either one is acceptable. And we can do it from there. And just to show you, before we call it a day here, if we run it from here, it's the same thing, right? So get used to the navigation. You can analyze the application for any issues with leakage. When we say leakage, we mean you declare variables but you don't release them properly, or the code isn't written properly to be able to release them. And then of course build for here, for running, for testing, for profiling. I won't get into that right now. Or this is a build here. This is a simple build without a run. We're just building it, we're not running it on the tester. We're in normal window behavior. You can have Xcode behind, Xcode in front, and so on. There's a lot of things, and of course the window, you have a minimize, a zoom, select next tab, select previous tab. You have a welcome to Xcode here, which is the main screen you see when you come in. You can learn about using Xcode here from about, we saw this before. Go to the Apple Developers Portal if you want to go there. It'll probably open Safari right now, and go to the portal. It's a very complete app. I'm going to shut, oh, nope, sorry, not my, I don't want to do that. I want to just close out of Safari. And this repository, I'm not quite sure of how it works, but you can create repositories of data or projects and create a new project as well. And of course open your recents. And you have open other as well, and you could open another. It would open the file finder. So I'm going to cancel that on the window. And right now here, you're seeing right now, you have an empty editor here, and you have right now it's telling which was in the current editor. And the current editor is the add qual picker H. Oh, and the organizer again is the organizer you see in About Xcode. So get used to playing around with Xcode, and over here you could show files with matching name here and do that and type that in as well. Yeah. Over here, if you want to add a file quickly, see, it says add. Whoop! It just come on. This plus sign will allow you to add a file and choose a template for your new file. It's a better way of going, instead of going file, new. I'm sorry, file, new file. You can come down here and add a new file. And here, let's see, show only recently edited files. Here, show only files with source control. And then here, show only files with unsaved changes. So these are quick little links here. I like this one though, which is add a new file. It's a quick one that you can use. And that is about it for now. So I will see you in about, well, I might post one more before I ship this out for servicing, but I will see you in about a week. Take care. I hope this tutorial with just navigating Xcode helped. Any questions you have, post them to either the YouTube site or my website, or if you want my Facebook site. They're all linked at the YouTube site. Take care. My name is Art, and I'll see you soon.